Bitcoin's really catching a bit here. We've seen this all over the place. We've been bullish on Bitcoin for a while, talking through this downturn. I mean, it hit 18,000, and we're seeing in Bitcoin what we see across a lot of industries, especially biotech. The leverage that was in biotech is incredible because some of these names are down 80%. Even some of the biotech names that generate revenue, tens of millions of revenue, have products on the market, have a great pipeline. Everything has gotten nailed because when you're on margin and you're leveraged, what happens? You're being forced to sell. Say if you own your own fitness place, right? And you're a trainer and you have 20 different machines, and all of a sudden, you have a huge debt payment and you're like, oh my God, I got to pay it. What are you going to do? You're going to go out, you got to sell machines within a month. This machine's $2,000. You have to sell it. And someone's going to be like, no, I'll pay $1,000 for it. You got to take it, right? So it's forced selling. And that's the greatest market to have if you have cash on the sidelines, when you see forced selling. And the forced selling and the leverage in Bitcoin has been incredible. And we're seeing companies blow up, and this is a great thing. Why? Because there's a lot of shit in this market, and this is where the most innovation, and when I say innovation, this is like the invention of 5G, AI, cloud, all the innovation outside of crypto are all extensions on existing trends. It's not innovation that's making AI better. It's making data analytics better. It's making 5G is now pushing in. 5G just came. It's not even here in a lot of places. Now you're starting to see it show up on your phone. But it's all extensions on how to make these great existing trends better. With Bitcoin, where you're seeing DeFi, you're seeing Web3, this is where the money from the venture capital funds in Q2, so this data is just being released, 7 out of 10, their biggest investments, the venture capitalists, right? These aren't like investors picking off Berkshire and Buffett buying Occidental, which has been around for a while, and you're like, hey, let me follow it. We're talking about companies that are investing in early stage things that they believe could change the world. 7 out of 10 of the largest venture capitalist funds, their investments have been in Web3. 120 billion of that, 120 billion has been invested in the metaverse just in the first 6 months. To put that in perspective, guys, that is the size of the cancer market in North America. That's how much has been invested in the metaverse, which is a trend most people still don't understand. You will, just like it took you a long time to understand cloud. Now, here's where I'm going with this, Daniel. When you look at Bitcoin, there's forced selling. You get all the garbage out. There's amazing trends in here. There's great companies. I always said, 90% of this is bullshit. You're seeing that getting weed out. Look what's happened over the past 7 days. Listen to these returns, Daniel. We all know Bitcoin shot up nicely. I mean, it's come down low, and it's up 25%. That's nothing. Ethereum's up 50% in the past 7 days. Polygon up 70% in the past 7 days. Avalanche up 50% in the past 7 days. Solana up 40% in the past 7 days. These are all top 10, 15 cryptocurrencies. These are the good ones. A lot of these can be found in our portfolio. Yes, we got nailed on them, but the good stuff is going to rise. We see that during .com bubbles. We see that all the time where all the shit gets nailed and everyone was like, this .com thing is not, remember March 2000 and into that. I don't know if you remember that as much, Daniel, but everyone thought this whole .com thing, the internet is bullshit, and we knew it. We told you it was all bullshit. And it's the world. The whole entire world is digital, right? So it's just a matter of time where you get all this garbage and then you get it filtered out, and now all the cream rises to the top, and you're able to buy a lot of these great companies. There's great companies within crypto, a lot of them that we're speaking to. Even with our metaverse push and purchasing, making the largest virtual real estate purchase in history, with $5 million. This industry is ripe for massive returns. It's sold off incredibly. This is a great market, just like it is in biotech, just like it is in small caps with the forced selling. But you're seeing Bitcoin, which we follow. It's really nice to see it catch a bid, because hopefully a lot of this crap is over with.
It is, and it's, to your point, when it really crashed from mid-20s down to 17 or 18,000, whatever the low was, or the low as of right now. A lot of that just did seem like liquidation, forced selling, a lot of margin calls and all that kind of stuff. So you need this as somebody that's biased and is bullish on it. You need to see it rally like this, because it just beats people up. And to your point, it gets to sentiment and people just get bogged down. But that's just part of the markets. I mean, markets go up, markets go down. It's not fun. It's easy to sit here and say that. I'm down on Galaxy Digital a lot. I've talked about that in the past. Mike Novogratz, CEO for Galaxy Digital, did a sit down with Bloomberg yesterday. They had quite a crypto lineup, and he was talking about that forced selling and things like that. Now, it'll be interesting because he was talking about Luna and Terra and the whole $40 billion or $50 billion collapse. And then you have Celsius and 3M, or not 3M, but 3 Arrows, hedge fund and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And remember, again, in the excuse of sounding like a know-it-all, I apologize up front. There's nothing new under the sun. It's just over leverage and bad risk management is how things like this blow up. what's interesting to me is that Mike Novogratz was talking about this. Him and Galaxy Digital had money in Luna or Terra back when. I think they got out of it for a profit or a small loss instead of when it was, completely collapsed. But it'll be interesting, and I'll be digging through that when Galaxy Digital reports their next quarter earnings. They put out their July numbers for June on assets under management. Of course, they took a dip down, but that's just one of the best macro plays on Bitcoin and Web3 and everything else. And the next two earnings releases from them are going to be huge because it's going to give you insight into the industry, big money sloshing around. And just yesterday, he reaffirmed and recommitted on, hey, there is just so much international money, speaking of Saudi Arabia and over in Asia, about how much wants to get in. If they didn't get in around 16, 17, or even low 20s, I don't know when they're getting in. Time will tell whether who's getting in and kind of doing this rally that we're seeing right now up to 24,000. But overall, it's great for the sector. I was surprised it didn't go to 15 or 12, just because when you look at charts and you look at 80% pullbacks, you get to that 12,000 number. Personally and selfishly, I don't want it to go that low. I want it to go back to 60, but it's just part of the environment. It's part of the cycle, and it's good. For investors, if you're nervous about this or you're stressed to the point where you can't sleep, you probably have too much in it and you need to look at risk management and position sizing. Other than that, nothing has changed outside of the big picture for crypto, Web 3.0 in general. It's an extension of the internet. It's a better experience. It's more ownership, and Bitcoin still holds the fundamental value of there's a limit to it, and people are going to value limit. What they're going to value that as, I don't know. But my guess is it's going to be a lot higher with politicians and world governments continuing down the road they're on.
Here's why it's going to get much higher. It went to over 60 grand without the help of institutions. Okay, because it wasn't regulation. There's you can't really invest in things unless you have some kind of framework, and there's still no framework. But at least the current administration came out and said, okay, well, there is going to be framework, and that was a big deal. I mean, Novogratz, a lot of the institutions who are in this said that's a big deal. Let me explain why it's a big deal. Because 60,000 just from the retail investors. Obviously, a lot of that is leverage, which we're seeing, right? So how do we get back there? And it's so funny because the people who want to hold Bitcoin forever will say the same thing. I mentioned this in the past, that, we're going to hold it forever, and, we hate Wall Street, and we don't want Wall Street in this, and this is DeFi and all this stuff. And, you need Wall Street in this if you want to get to 60 grand. So if you're someone at Bitcoin that's holding it forever, you want to pray that the big guys are going to get in. Why? Because BlackRock has $10 trillion in assets. And here's what they just said recently, a couple days ago. They said the crypto asset market witnessed a steep downturn, but we still see more interest from institutional clients about how to efficiently access these assets using our technology and products. That's $10 trillion. You know why that they're saying, why they have to go in? Because their clients want it. Because Fidelity has $4.5 trillion in assets. I don't know how much they have in retirement. I'm sure it's around $1 trillion, at least, 25% of that. And they just came out not long ago, a couple months ago, we talked about this, Daniel, how they're going to provide allocation to Bitcoin, right? So the allocation to Bitcoin is going to be, I think it's 20%, they said.
They're allowed 20%.
They're allowed 20%. You got
hung up on that, yeah.
And I got hung up on that because I thought that was way too much. I think you speculate. But all right, so 20%. Let's start 20%. 20% is $100 million of that. It's $100 million could be pushed into this. So at $100 million, and you're looking at Bitcoin's market cap is $450 billion. Right, so you're looking at what, 20% of its market cap? Even at 50 million, say it's half or 10%. You're looking at 11% of the market cap of Bitcoin that could see inflows into Bitcoin just from Fidelity. So Fidelity, the fact that they did that is forcing BlackRock's hand, because people are going to leave BlackRock and say, all right, I want to get into cryptos. I want to get into Bitcoin. A lot of people want it. The institutions want it. The institutional clients want it. And then you look at State Street, trillions coming down the line. This is the money that has yet to float into this. Now that you're seeing all this garbage gone and a lot of 60, 70% declines, you're going to see more and more money push into this. And even Novogratz, what did he say about the decline, right? And he was a little bit early to this, but at least he came out and said it. Someone who deals with institutions, a lot of them talk to him, he's ex-Goldman Sachs guy, through, Galaxy Digital. You could talk about, I know you listened to that call the other day.
Yeah, he just continues to say that there's a lot of interest from Asia, Saudi Arabia, big wealth institution funds. And that's, like I said, it'll be interesting to see on the next quarterly earnings. He didn't dive into that. He just keeps saying there's a lot, but all the big bankers, not all, but essentially a lot of the big bankers have always talked about this international money coming in. It needs to actually come in. I like I said, if they didn't get in around, and I'm not saying that the bottom is in, I don't have a crystal ball. However, if they didn't start allocating money in the low 20s or high teens, I don't know what they're waiting on. Maybe it's regulations. Who knows what doors need to be open for them to make the decision on their side. But we're getting there is the point. And until that changes, and to your point with BlackRock saying that, I am no fan of BlackRock. I can't stand those guys. However, you need to pay attention to them when because they're the elephant in the room and they have a lot of power. And unless they're just absolutely lying through their teeth, which is a possibility because they're idiots, I just don't think they're lying about that in general. I think
just the forced selling part too.
Yeah, like exactly. Yeah, well, the forced selling, absolutely. Yeah.
When he said the forced selling, we're seeing it, pretty close to an end, and that's important because now you're just seeing the leverage blow out. And the forced selling also came. I read an article. It was like $300 million of miners, right? So when you're mining for cryptocurrency, a lot of these guys are keeping Bitcoin on the balance sheet. Or whatever they're mining for, Ethereum, whatever they're mining for on the balance sheet, and they wind up selling a lot of that, right, to cover their costs as the market got crushed. And again, that's a lot of selling of Bitcoin. So you're seeing a lot of this selling, and that's what you're seeing even in the market, where everyone is leaning to one side, and everyone's like, holy cow, it's bearish. All-time sentiment where, again, just all-time from contrarian, your radar's got to go up, where things are not absolutely horrible. They're not good. All right, they're not good. We want to see inflation moderate. We're seeing it in real-time data. We haven't seen CPI, PPI. We're definitely going to see that next month and going forward. But we want to see inflation come down. It's still very high. There's some companies that are trading at valuations that are a little crazy, even some of these technology companies. But man, if you're looking at small caps, you're looking at biotech, you're looking at Bitcoin, and I mentioned this yesterday, in podcasts too. It's even some of these companies that came public in the past 18 months that are down 80%. They raised a shitload of cash. They're sitting on tons of cash. Their growth is still intact, but they came out 20, 30 times sales because, the retail environment was great. Now it's a lot less than that. And these guys have very good balance sheets, and you're still seeing growth. While it's slow, you're still seeing growth that's, a lot faster than the overall market. Start looking at those names as well, because those could be some good names. So there's a lot of interest. There's a lot of things going on right now that I really like, but you could see the tide turning a little bit. And I don't know if this is the absolute bottom, but there's definitely a lot of names that I like. And I believe you can almost buy almost any name and you'll probably be up in it over the next 18 months, which is saying something.